the more you resist something, the more it's going to actually grow, and it's going to become more persistent and trying to get your attention. And so when you, what made me think of aggression as far as the shadow goes is this quote that I came across when I was doing some research for the show. And it's from Clara Thompson, who was a psychoanalyst. And I believe she was around, I could be completely wrong on this, but I believe she was around at the same time as Jung was. And she said that aggression is not necessarily destructive at all. It springs from an innate tendency to grow and master life, which seems to be characteristic of all living matter. Only when this life force, which is aggression, so only when this life force is obstructed in its development, do the ingredients of anger, rage, or hate become connected with it. And I just thought that was really interesting to think. So your aggression, which is a part of your shadow, I would say, because I would think most people would see aggression as something that you want to hide from society or not acceptable by society, except in certain arenas. Like it's acceptable in a sporting event, say, it's acceptable in an action movie, say, but in your normal day-to-day life, it's not acceptable to be aggressive, probably. And so it is something that we try to hide. And when you try to hide it or repress it, that's when it turns into the anger, the rage, and the hate. So the aggression itself isn't bad. The aggression itself is probably, as we go back to our survival instincts, or whatever I'm trying to say here, is probably part of that, is a method to try to keep us alive, is what it stems from. And if we just acknowledge that and find an acceptable outlet for it, it won't turn into the anger and the rage and, the negative emotions that come along with that.
Yeah. So do you think that's why people love, violent movies so much?
I think so. I think that's one way, although then now I'm thinking about the pain body again, but I'll let that go. But but I think that is one acceptable way to maybe get your aggression out. Although, are you really getting anything out? I don't know.
Do you know, it's funny, like,
are you, because you're like living vicariously through someone else? I don't know.
Well, an example I've just thought about was, trying to remember his name. He's actually a politician over in the States. His surname's Kander. Can't remember. Yeah, I'll have to find his name. I'll see if I can remember it. Jeff Kander or something like that.
Okay.
He was a politician, but he experienced PTSD after being in the military, and he didn't experience anything live, but just the day-to-day livings of being a soldier.
Yeah.
Over time, kind of ate away at him. And what he did for many years is, when he got back, he avoided action or war movies because he was worried that these movies would manifest all these negative kind of emotions in him and bring back all those things that he experienced overseas.
Okay.
And what actually happened is, when he started to go to, like veterans counseling kind of thing, is they said, watch these movies. Like, you need to do this, because inside there was like a need to deal with these emotions that wasn't being resolved. So what was happening is, he wasn't sleeping. He was having nightmares. It was impacting his day-to-day because it wasn't being dealt with. Yeah. So he started watching these war movies, and funnily enough, it actually helped him deal with it. So I do think that's a reason why we like violent games, violent movies. I was talking before the show about John Wick. That movie is essentially Keanu Reeves running around shooting people. One of my favorite movies. And maybe that's because the shadow part of me is longing for that kind of controlled aggression, and it doesn't want that to go beyond into violence. Right. So, yeah, I think that's probably maybe a common example for us all.
I think so. Well, and I've wondered, and we talked about this a little bit before too, but I've wondered about myself, because I feel like there's definitely a duality in me, and I always have felt that way. I mean, I've always been very aware of it.
Yeah.
Where I don't think some people are as aware of it. And so, for example, one thing is I really like dark entertainment. So, like, I like dark movies, I like dark music that most people would probably find depressing, or I don't know, or maybe it would make them angry or bring out the regression or whatever. It doesn't bring out my aggression, but I feel like it maybe does serve the purpose of aggression in some way. I don't know, but I feel like it balances me out in some way.
So on that point, if you didn't listen to your metal music, if you didn't, watch American Psycho, do you do you think that would cause like a conflict in you? Like maybe it would manifest, or maybe like this aggression would turn into violence? I don't know. Like I can't see you being violent, but I just wonder.
I have been violent before, so no. Remember, 2 weeks ago or something, we talked about Bitch Amanda, and Bitch Amanda can get a little violent. But oh gosh, let me think here. So I don't know, because I think more what it does is, I think it's more the acceptance of it. And I think maybe it is that living vicariously thing, though. Okay, so I'll go to like the music I listen to, for example. A lot of it is people who have had really tough lives, and they make music about it. They have lyrics that talk about their depression, their lost family, their friends that they've alienated, whatever, like all this depressing stuff, how they don't fit in the world and all this stuff. And maybe that's me, like I can feel that and empathize with it. Maybe that is like my version of a violent action movie, because a violent action movie wouldn't do anything for me.
Okay.
And so maybe that is the equivalent of it. But I think that it's part of my shadow. And I think that me accepting it and not hiding it helps me bring out my good side more.
Yep.
Because I could hide that. I don't hide it. I mean, I don't really I don't really go around advertising it per se, but most people, when they find out that I listen to heavy metal music, alt metal, whatever you want to call it, are pretty surprised. And
I was surprised.
So, and that is something, you kind of do hide it from people in a way, just because there is a connotation that goes along with people that listen to that kind of music. Like all of a sudden they think that, I don't know, like I'm doing drugs and having promiscuous sex with everybody and just partying all the time and, all this stuff. I'm down in my basement worshiping Satan. I don't know.
I mean, I've just got these images. I'm like,
I know. So I think that there is some kind of, and I'm just kind of fleshing this out as we talk about it, but I think there is some kind of expectation that that's not acceptable to society. And so maybe, but I've accepted it and I don't hide it from anyone if it comes up.
Yeah.
So I think that is part of me letting my shadow come through, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's a good example. Yeah. I think, you don't want to deny those things in yourself, like, because it probably will manifest in a very different, more maybe problematic way than if you just listen to the metal music and worship Satan.
To clarify, I do not worship Satan in my basement.
He doesn't. I can guarantee you it's quite the opposite. Just before I forget, so I just remembered the name of that veteran. So it's Jason Kander, everyone, who I think he previously was running for mayor of Kansas City. And so his whole discussion was about veterans, because he's running like a veteran kind of program, I think. And he decided to jump out of that race to deal with his PTSD. So again, another good example, I think, of just allowing the things inside you that you're conflicting with to come out in a healthy way, like watching a war movie, for example.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
So